Sieg, Heil! Heil Fauci! Heil Burks! Yeah. Oh, and not just Fauci and Burks. Let's also include in that Mr. Emanuel. Yeah. Biden advisor. Doctor. Zeke Emanuel says that the U.S. should be locked down for 18 months. Yep. This is what we're putting up with, folks. And by the way, if you could show me any evidence that these lockdowns and forced business closures actually did something, you might you might have a debate. We could have a debate about that. Do you know why all the screaming politicians and others are continuing to demand that states like Arkansas and Iowa lock down their economies and close everything, all so-called non-essential businesses? Because the longer it goes on where those states do not, and in fact, at this point, it's gone on long enough, the proof is absolutely irrefutable that these measures do nothing. And that really is the problem when you get down to it. I mean, I've got, let's just look at this. This is the back computed R. R naught, by the way, is the basic transmission rate. So the back computed value is the effective R naught for that time. Now, that the thing is that if you want to get down to being a pedantic blankety blank about it, R naught is assuming in all cases that all persons are susceptible. In other words, 100% susceptible population. So as a result, that is technically not the right term to use when you're talking about effective transmission rates as opposed to theoretical transmission rates, because, of course, there is no such thing as a 100% susceptible population after the very first thing. Okay? So, and this is a problem that you got here is that we have, at this particular point, plenty of data. And the data from Iowa, which I've got up here, which did not implement a lockdown, is, as you can see, converging, so where the little pips are on the line, is converging exactly where all of the other states are, which did implement a lockdown, all the other ones in that nice little spaghetti chart, along with the national standard, which, of course, is almost all lockdown. So here we are with a state that had a governor that gave the finger to Fauci and Burks and said, nope, we're not going to play jackbooted Stasi and force every business in the state to close. We're going to let people decide what is essential and what's not. Now, granted, they did close bars and restaurants, okay? So let's be fair here. They are contributing to the unemployment problem. Same thing with Arkansas. Arkansas, by the way, I could chart, but their data is extraordinarily noisy because they had several days with 0 cases at the very beginning of this. And so if you chart it, they actually have an R naught that's going to blow up my chart. It's well over 3. But then as you get towards the end, they converge right down to the same place, which, by the way, is exactly in the same place that Tennessee is, which does have a lockdown. Okay, and yet Arkansas does not have a lockdown. And Arkansas and Tennessee, if you remember, are bordering states. So we now have proof positive, folks, that these lockdowns, these shelter-in-place orders, do nothing to reduce the spread of coronavirus. They do nothing. Zero. This is not conjecture. This is not my theory. This is a historical fact. You cannot argue with historical numbers, folks. You cannot argue with them. And we also have the fraud of the IHME model, which was on wild display yesterday afternoon when it was updated and said, on the date of the update, yesterday, on the 7th, said that Florida would be needing more than twice as many hospital beds as it actually needed. Now, Folks, you could say, well, but it was making a projection. No, it wasn't. That's not projection. The model was updated yesterday. Yesterday is not a projection. Yesterday is a statement of fact. Today, from a model updated yesterday, would be a projection. But yesterday is not a projection. If you have a mathematical model that is not normed to the actual statistical facts on the ground on the day in which it was updated, it is not a model. It is a fraud, a flat-out fraud. So now we have governors, including the governor of the state of Florida, that are taking data that is known fraudulent and using it as justification for imprisoning you in your house when you have committed no crime and you do not have coronavirus. Why do the people put up with this? We're all good little Nazis. We're all saluting to the Führer. Yes, Führer Trump and Führer Birx and Führer Fauci and Führer whoever your governor might be and Führer whoever your sheriff might be. Boy, we snap to attention. We do the Sieg. We really are, folks. That's what we're doing in this country right now. Okay? I understand that people they love to trot out that claim of science. They really do. Okay? They love to trot out that claim of science. By the way, the CDC has a foundation. You know who they take money from, among other people? They take money from the Gates Foundation. And who's the Gates Foundation? Well, the Gates Foundation also funds, to a large extent, IHME. Well, there you go, folks. There you go. So here we are, American people. We submitted to being imprisoned in our homes without firing a shot. We said yes to blown models. We have now got more than 2 weeks of data past the imposition of these measures, where some states did not implement the things that all the screaming Karens and the screaming statists and the screaming Stalinists and by the way, your jailers, the Himmlers of the world today, all those people, they said, disaster was going to ensue. If you don't do this, they told Arkansas and Iowa, it's going to be an absolute disaster. You have to do this. You have to do this. In fact, the media is all over this. One of their radio stations, oh my God, you have to implement a lockdown. Well, the governor said, no, up yours. We're not going to do it. And you know what the thing is about that, folks, when you get down to it, is that we now have proof that they were not only unnecessary, not just unnecessary. I mean, look, Arkansas and Iowa, if they were a quarter point in back computed R, okay, in other words, a quarter point higher in transmission rate, you'd say, well, look, if you did this, you'd get that quarter point. Everybody else got a quarter point. Why don't you get the quarter point? You should have the quarter point. It's less transmission, it's less people get the disease, which, by the way, is a load of bullshit. It just changes when you get it. But, hey, you could make an argument for it, right? I mean, at least there'd be some logic. But the problem is, you look at this chart, and Iowa did not do it, and they ended up in exactly the same place that everybody else ended up. No difference. None whatsoever. So why do we put up with it, folks? Tell me why you do it. Hey, listen, as you sit here in your house this morning, just tell me why you do it. I just want the explanation. I would love to hear somebody explain why we haven't pulled out our pitchforks and torches in America and said, absolutely not. The data proves that these measures do nothing. They do nothing. Now, you want to argue over school closures and bars and restaurants or whatever. Oh, okay, you know what? We can have that debate. That's a debate we can have once we lift these other orders. Then we could have a state that says, no, we're sending the kids back to school and see what happens. Or we're going to let the bars and restaurants out and see what happens. Okay? We'll take, you know what? That's what 50 state political laboratories are supposed to be about. And you say, but you can't do that. That's your, you know what? Yes, you can do that. That's why we have 50 state political laboratories. And folks, the reality of it is this. You have all the screaming people up there yelling and yelling and yelling. And yet, as soon as they get the chance, they tell you point blank, they don't intend to ever lift these orders. 18 months to 2 years. Are you kidding me? Fauci again. Things will not go back to normal until there's a vaccine. Bernanke, same thing. Oh, no. The economy won't go. Well, of course it won't go back to normal. You scared the living bejesus out of everybody in the damned country. And oh, by the way, Iowa and Arkansas prove it was bullshit. That there's absolutely no reason that you should fear your neighbor who is out walking his damn dog or going to the grocery store. No, absolutely no reason for it whatsoever. Go ahead, folks. Keep telling me why this is such a great idea, why we should all put up with this, why we in America should tolerate this blatant abuse when we now have in evidence, irrefutably, from the actual data in the actual states that gave the finger to Fauci and Birx, at least partially, okay, did not implement the lockdowns, and yet they're right next to states that did, and oh my God, there was no disaster. We were going to have a disaster. Where's the kaboom? I expected an earth-shattering kaboom. Oh, there's no kaboom. I don't know how much more data you have to have, folks, to know that these policies are bankrupt. Why do we continue to put up with things that are blatantly proved to be lies? We don't have a country called America anymore. We now snap to attention and give Nazi salutes. And that's a fact.